Welcome back everybody, Brezzy43 here. I am back with our next video. Today we are going to be talking about a new team that I've been laddering with and a really good Series 12 team in my opinion. It is Palkia Zacian. People are calling it Weiner Dog. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me. I don't understand why it's called Weiner Dog, but it is actually very, very good. So today we're going to go over the quick overview of the team, and we're going to look at some replays that I had from some of the Showdown ladder tours today in the VGC chat on Showdown. Before we jump into the team, please hit that like button, subscribe button, leave a comment. Anything you can do to support me is really appreciated. Let me know what you think about this team or if you've had any success with Palkia. I think Palkia is a really interesting Pokemon that's actually pretty powerful, and it makes a lot more sense when you pair it with a second restricted. So we'll go ahead and jump into the team. The team is in front of you here. I've been working on variations of this team for quite a while. I spent a lot of time with like Trick Room Palkia and trying to do like a really bulky Zacian with Trick Room, and ultimately I settled on what's in front of you here. So the team started off with these front four. I drew a lot of inspiration from the Lapras Zacian teams that I was playing back in Series 8 and Series 11, mostly Series 8. But the idea was that you could Dynamax Lapras and you had Incineroar Mungus as supports and you had Zacian as your restricted Pokemon, and it just came from the power of Fire, Water, Grass core with Zacian, right? I know a lot of people are talking about Kyogre Zacian right now, but I've personally been finding a bit more success with Palkia, mostly because people are prepared for Kyogre. It's the number one team on the ladder in terms of popularity, but I think Palkia covers Zacian's weaknesses very well, same as Kyogre. It does get a 4 times weakness or 4 times resistance to fire, which is awesome, being a dragon type. And it gets really good Dynamax moves and often wants to Dynamax, right? Kyogre doesn't really want to Dynamax, and very similar to Lapras, Palkia does want to Dynamax. So after several iterations, I tried out a bunch of different Pokemon in this slot. I tried Telepathy Palkia with AV Landorus or Choice Scarf Landorus with Bulldoze. I tried Regieleki in this other slot. I tried tons of stuff, but ultimately, this sitting in front of you has felt really good to me. I'll jump through the spreads really quick here. Palkia, you have to be pressure, unfortunately, because well, we don't have any other synergies, but this Moongus has Pollen Puff, and you can't actually Pollen Puff your own Palkia if you have telepathy, which did come up for me in one of the replays. You'll see I thought I had changed it back to pressure, but I guess I hadn't yet on that team, so it almost cost me the game. But I do think going timid is very important for Palkia. 250. I was getting outsped by Yveltals and getting outsped by like this really fast Mimikyu that I played against, and like there's other like Xerneas's and things like that. Like going timid max speed, you kind of want it. I tried Modest for a while, and I think timid's been the way to go. If you wanted to drop Earth Power for Trick Room, then you can change the item to Lustrous Orb, but Life Orb is a lot better when you have Earth Power. The EV spread is nothing special. Just after I got the speed tier that I wanted, I just optimized for Life Orb chip, gave the value points in my defenses, and then to dump the rest into special attack. If I keep trying out things and I'm not worried about my offensive calc so much anymore, I might drop some special attack to survive some things, but ultimately this has felt really good. The ability to boost your special defense with Earth Power is phenomenal, and the ability to drop your opponent's physical attack is also phenomenal, with Hydro Pump being the only really good water stab that Palkia gets. It's kind of a necessity. Sucks that it's only 80% accurate, but you do what you have to do. Next up is the Incineroar. Pretty basic set. Safety goggles for a second. I personally like to have 2 ways to fight sleep on my team, or fight a Mungus, I should say. So safety goggles and my own grass type fight Amoonguss perfectly. This last slot is kind of up for debate. It was Darkest Lariat for a long time until I settled on Urshifu as the last member. You could run Taunt here. You could run. I did run Roar for a little while. The logic behind Roar is that even though you can't roar out a Dynamax Pokemon, you still can roar out Mimikyu because you can't taunt it. Most Mimikyu are Mental Herb right now, and having Roar will deny their Trick Room and give you a huge tempo swing. It allows you to lead Incineroarization into them, set up a sub, go for damage, whatever you want to do, and just roar something out. But Darkest Lariat has been actually. I think I changed it to Throat Chop. I don't think I updated this spread yet, but Throat Chop. I haven't clicked it very much, but it does shut down Snarl from Yveltal as well as opposing Incineroar, which matters when you're dealing with Palkia's special attacking. EV spread, nothing special. Actually, I do believe that this is the spread I went with today. This survives Sacred Sword from neutralization. Otherwise, the rest is in special defense. And surprisingly, this amount of speed has been correct. I haven't lost a speed tie, or I haven't lost a speed tie in parentheses to any opposing Incineroar. I've outsped all of them and got my fake out off first. So um, I don't know if people are just running super slow Incins or they're investing in their bulk more. I don't know, but this speed has been enough for me so far. It may change, and I may end up wanting more. Um, excuse me, but for now, this has been very good. Amoonguss, nothing really special for Amoonguss here. This is a very standard Amoonguss that I've been using for a long time. Um, I Protect, Rage Powder, Spore, and Pollen Puff has just been an amazing move for this Pokemon. Being able to heal up your Zacian after you sub, being able to heal up Incineroar with Flare Blitz, heal up Palkia, it's so good. Um, Kobo Berry allows you to lead Palkia Amoonguss into most Kyogre teams and not really have a fear of the Thunder or the Tornadus. You can just start sporing things. I don't believe you most likely die to the double up of Max Airstream from Tornadus and Ice Beam, but then your Palkia is just getting free reign. So it's usually better to protect on turn one and then get a special defense boost with Palkia and then go for Spore afterwards. But this Amoonguss is pretty standard. We hit the bump here in the special defense. The rest is dumped into here, and then 219 is a good number for Regenerator. I was Calm nature for a long time, but I switched to Sassy just because the the added benefit of being able to go really slow inside Trick Room is what's really important in my opinion. And it came up a couple times where um, I wasn't speed tying other Amoonguss, I wasn't speed tying Glastrier, things like that. So being really slow like this is good. Also underspeeding min speed Calyrex Ice in Trick Room is really important. So that's what this is. Zacian, this is a pretty standard new Zacian. Substitute has been really good as always. It's just a really nice move to be able to outplay your opponent, sub in their face, and stall out their Dynamax. It also it allows you to punish your opponent if they play defensively when you have Fake Out active. You can just Fake Out sub, and then they're forced to let the sub go up if they play with a double protect. And then Play Rough has supplanted Sacred Sword for a lot of reasons. There's a good number of dragon types out right now. Also Yveltal and different dark types that you want to hit with Play Rough. I do have an Urshifu as well, so I'm not missing the steel coverage, and I do have a way to deal with, or the fighting coverage, and I do have a way to deal with the really bulky steel types like Solgaleo and Metagross and such with Urshifu, so I didn't need Sacred Sword. If you are struggling with those, you may want to look to drop one of these two moves here for Sacred Sword. But I do think Play Repsation is really good. Um, the EVs don't do anything specific. This just EVs for the jump and physical attack. 252 HP because bulkization is really good. And 148 speed has been this kind of the sweet spot here. You outspeed Regieleki at +1, but you outspeed it by an additional point, so that way all the people who are speed creeping here, you speed creep those speed creepers. So um, this has been pretty good, and then the rest I dumped into special defense. The special defense has actually been pretty good, but I may end up putting some into the attack. I may just go back down to the value point, but we'll see. Bulky AV Thundurus, those of you that have been following the channel for a while know that I've been using this Pokemon, this exact EV spread for a long time. This is pretty standard Thundurus from my perspective. I prefer the extra bulk from just running 252, 252. So Wild Charge, Fly, Superpower, and Foul Play. You could run Lash Out here. In fact, again, I think I did run it in the Showdown tours today. But Foul Play is pretty decent too for hitting people or your opponent after they've got their weakness policy boosts and whatnot. But I do think you need to be Jolly Max Speed, and I honestly, for the life of me, can't remember what I EV'd for with this, but I just never changed it, and it's been really good. So I don't plan on changing it in the future. Sorry, it gets so dark so quickly now. We're in the Midwest in the winter, so. But this is just a really good bulky Thundurus that survives so many attacks. It does survive the double up of Max Lightning and Calyrex Astro Barrage for the most part, but this is where I started making it. The difference is that I really liked the core of Thundurus, Zacian, and Incineroar +1 against my opponent's Calyrex teams. Just gives you some really powerful flexibility there. It is entirely physical, which is a bit of a problem, but um, it's just been super good against most Calyrex teams for me. And then the last slot, I played around with this slot quite a bit. Urshifu Dark is interestingly positioned right now. It's a really good cleanup Pokemon against certain matchups, and it's also really good against the Solgalios and Metagrosses and Necrozma Duskmanes and Dialgas of the format, because you just have this move that always crits and crits through all the defense boosts, and you just have really spammable offensive typing outside of fairy types, but you have Zacian to clean up fairy types. So against Hyper Offense, Zacian or Shifu is just a really strong backup mode to the team. Very standard Focus Sash set. I may experiment with like a Choice Scarf variant or something, because I do kind of want to try Focus Sash Amoonguss and maybe run Max Speed Amoonguss, but that'll be an adventure for another time. For now, Focus Sash is really good. Put your 4 points into Special Defense over HP, because unless you have grassy terrain, because you're optimizing for Hail Chip this way. Whereas if you put the extra point in there and you don't have grassy terrain, then you're just taking an extra point from Hail that you don't need to take. So that's the team. Common cores are lead Palkia Amoonguss, bring Incineroarization in the back, or lead Palkia Incineroar, bring Amoongussation in the back. That's the standard one. I don't typically not lead Palkia, but I have done that a couple times. Maybe you want to, like against Trick Room, you can lead Incineroarization, and then you can bring in Amoonguss and start sporing things. Hyper offense stuff, or when I want to get against Sun, my default lead against Sun so far has been Incineroar Thundurus, and then bringing Zacian and then either Palkia or Shifu in the back, depending on what the rest of their team looks like. It's difficult to bring Palkia and Thundurus because you kind of want to Dynamax both of them. So sometimes I don't bring Palkia to that matchup, sometimes I do. Just kind of depends. Against Calyrex stuff, I lead Thundurus, Incineroar, and then I bring Zacian or Shifu in the back, or I lead, if I'm not trying to fight over Tailwind or whatever, I bring Thundurus, Zacian, and I bring Incineroar or Shifu in the back. I think that's most of the stuff that I did in these replays. Let's go ahead and jump over to those. So this first one was against. It was in one of the showdown for the VGC Laboratories. These things are really interesting. I didn't know they existed, but if you actually join the VGC chat room, there's a good number of people who are in here at all times. There's a lot of users, and they fire these random tournaments. Single elimination VGC 2022, where you just join, you play some games. Some of the games were, not great. They were pretty, but some of them were fantastic and really high level sets. So I did grab 3 that I wanted to talk about and kind of go through my thinking. So this matchup's interesting. My opponent has Venusaur, Groudon, Calyrex, Regieleki, Incineroar, Stakataka. So if you remember, I said against Sun, I typically like to lead Incineroar, Thundurus, but because they don't have a Thundurus or an Airstream on and they have Trick Room, I wanted to lead Zacian because this punishes a couple of different things. But we're going to go and see what they have here. They lead Venusaur, Eleki. Okay, so Fake Out is a pretty obvious Fake Out's a pretty obvious play from me here, but I still want to make it into the Venusaur. Because even if they Dynamax, Zacian's so bulky that it still takes the move. And I wasn't actually planning on them maxing here, to be honest with you. I thought maybe they would max the Eleki, but I did get got a little bit where my Zacian took a bunch of damage here, kind of unnecessarily, but you'll see switch to Groudon, Dynamax, Venusaur. But I do get the Fake Out into Venusaur to deny the Sleep Powder, break the potential Focus Sash, take a good amount of damage there, and then Behemoth Blade picks up the knockout. I don't actually know if it was Sash, but it did, it ended up working out for me. I thought maybe they'd go for a Sleep Powder or something. It seems like a weird play to make if you're not Life Orb, but now here I'm in a little bit of trouble. They outspeed with Eleki, so and I also pinned myself a little bit here because I brought Urshifu and I brought Amoonguss, so I don't really have a good Dynamax Pokemon. So I end up maxing the Incin here. and the Aleki ends up being a screens Aleki set. So I protect Zacian and I max strike the Aleki to try to slow it down, and they set up Reflect. So really interesting Aleki set. I haven't seen screens Aleki in a while. So from here, what I think would have been a better play for me to do than what I did was actually to go for a sub, because I've slowed down the Aleki now, and slow Aleki or support Aleki may not break my sub because I'm super bulky. So I think the better play would have been to set up a sub and then go for like a max flare or something, but instead I go for a double attack, and then as you see, doesn't kill, and then I lose both to this Precipice Blades. So that was a mistake on my part. I should have brought a Pokemon that I could have Dynamaxed that was not Incineroar. That was step one. But step two was that I should have also gone for a substitute there, because as you see, I would have got a free turn, would have done probably half to Max Flare, did 33%. Um, Although maybe it was fine to go for the double up there. So here, my opponent's already used their max. So here they're kind of pinned. They Their Groudon is kind of pinned right now because Aleki's forced to either Volt Switch out, or go for an Electro Web. And my Urshifu outspeeds Groudon as it currently stands, and he's been speed dropped anyway. So even if he does Electro Web me, this KOs. So I go for a Detect, which is a pretty mid-ground play. It covers them breaking my Sash. I'm trying to preserve my Sash, and I think I Spore the Aleki slot here. So they go for the Electro Web, and then they go for a Precipice Blades. They do miss the Amoonguss. I don't think it would have mattered, but we got the Spore off. So now we're free to Wicked Blow the Groudon slot, and actually, I think I also Spored. So I think I ended up getting really, I think I doubled it here because this covers a couple of different things. Um, this covers them switching into Calyrex, because I don't think Wicked Blow KOs Calyrex, because Calyrex is dumb, but I think it's a roll if I had to guess, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So here we Wicked Blow into the Groudon and we Spore the Groudon slot as well, just because I think maybe they'll switch it out. So we actually get the Calyrex. So now both of his Pokemon are asleep, and neither Pokemon has burned a sleep turn. So I have a pretty free Wicked Blow the Regieleki, Pollen Puff the Calyrex, which is what I do here. And this game's basically just over. Um, I was a little bit worried about this play specifically because I knew that this could be weakness policy, but I also knew that it was a roll on my Urshifu, and this game should be pretty well locked up. But this next play, I go for Wicked Blow and Spore again in case they wake up and try to go for a Trick Room or something, and I wasn't sure how low that was actually going to bring it. So now I get the KO, win the game that way. So Amoonguss is very good. This ended up working out for me despite my lackluster 4 Pokemon that I brought, but really good, really cool Regieleki set from my opponent. Next up here we have Solgaleo. So Solgaleo Kyogre, which is really interesting. So what I'm thinking about right away is that this is most likely Brutal Swing Tornadus with Weakness Policy Solgaleo. I think Weakness Policy is one of the best moves, or one of the best items for Solgaleo. This could also be a Scarf Ogre. That's something that people haven't really been talking about. But it is rising in popularity. And then it's unclear to me where the Sash is. I don't know if the Sash is here, or if the Sash is here, or it could even be here. So this is so my lead against this is going to be Palkia, Amoonguss, and then I'm going to be bringing Urshifu and Zacian in the back. I don't really need Incineroar. That's an important thing to note, is that Incineroar doesn't really do anything to them. I don't really expect them to bring their Amoonguss to this matchup. I expect them to bring this Amoonguss doesn't look like it's a super integral part of this team. It looks more like it's a Trick Room answer, whereas my Amoonguss is actually like really important to my main strategy. So I plan on leading Amoonguss, Palkia, and then bringing Zacian, Urshifu in the back, because Urshifu always beats Solgaleo in the end game, right? So my opponent leads Tornogre, we lead Palkia, Amoonguss. So now I have a couple of different plays I can make. I think the best one is just to protect Amoonguss and then go for damage somewhere. I could have Quaked the Kyogre, but like I said, I didn't know where the Sash was, and I was kind of hoping that they would taunt my Amoonguss rather than set Tailwind. And actually, from their perspective, they ended up going for the taunt turn one. They should have probably gone for Tailwind turn one. They did give themselves an extra turn of Tailwind, but they could have baited out my Protect and put me in a worse position taunting my Mungus. So I max. They protect Kyogre and they go for taunt. I protect a Mungus and I go for max Geyser into the Tornadus. Drops it to its stash. So now from here, probably should have gone for Spore again, just to keep them honest, because they want to set Tailwind up, right? Their Pokemon underspeed mine right now, except for the Aleki. And so I thought they were going to taunt again, so I actually go for a Pollen Puff. But here's what happens. They set up Tailwind, they go for Water Spout, doesn't do that much damage. We go for Max Quake into the Kyogre, and we Pollen Puff the Tornadus slot. Get the knockout. My opponent, I think they go into Solgaleo. Yes. So now here I'm expecting. I've been seeing some Solgaleo running Psychic move as coverage, so I'm expecting them to Psychic my Mungus, or at least I want to play around that. But I also don't really want to switch in my Incineroar at the moment. Oh, I didn't bring Incineroar actually. Never mind. I don't really want to switch in my Zacian at the moment because it's just extra damage from the Kyogre that I don't really want to take. Also, I'm expecting that another play they could make is to Dynamax their Solgaleo and max Guard because it stalls out my last turn of Trick Room. So I'm going to target the Kyogre here. Amoonguss is going to... I think I protect with the Amoonguss. I do protect with Amoonguss. So they go for Steel Spike. And I think they go for Scald. Okay, they do get a burn here. And then Max Quake comes out, drops it to almost dead. My max turns are over. So now remember, I want to kill the Kyogre because I'm basically trying to take as little damage as possible from the Solgaleo because while killing the partner because I know that Urshifu wins this endgame, right? Urshifu beats Solgaleo every time. So I go for a Rage Powder just to draw in this attack because Kyogre's not going to do that much to me, and I get a KO on Kyogre with Earth Power or Spatial Rend, I guess. I should have maybe Earth Powered there just for the 100% accuracy. So now here comes Aleki. Last turn of Tailwind, so pretty obvious double protect for me. Also the last turn of their max, so I just throw out the double protect. And then I'm gonna double the Aleki slot because now both my Pokemon are faster than the Solgaleo, unless they Electro Web me, which they do end up doing, but they target the Zacian, I believe. So E-Web comes out. We don't die thanks to our 2-time special defense. Sunsteel Strike into the Zacian, also don't die. And then Earth Power, Behemoth Blade for 100% accuracy moves. We die to our burn, but now in comes Urshifu, and then Wicked Blow KOs. So that was just something that it's really important to keep in mind your endgame. That this was what the point of this replay was that like some of the plays I made, like maybe I could have saved some of my Pokemon, but I knew that Urshifu with Focus Sash was going to win this game. That was what I was playing towards this game. That was what was important. So keeping that in mind when you're playing through your matches is important. Like, what's my end game here? How am I going to get to it? And how best can I position my Urshifu? So by taking everything out, I give myself 2 shots at killing the Solgaleo if for some reason the first one doesn't. Like let's say that that it survives with Wicked Blow and it goes for Earthquake and then knocks me out, right? Then goodness gracious. I'm going to mute some Facebook message chats quick. My friend just messaged me and said he's just took a flight to Florida to visit his family, and he said he just saw Frankie Muniz in the airport. Okay. So that's the point of this replay, is to show you to kind of think about your end game, right? What do you think your opponent's going to do, and how can you best position yourself around that to beat them, right? The last one was actually the winning game. I actually won the ladder tour here. Also, Palkia looks a lot better from the front than from the back. Just saying. So this is pretty classic Tornogre stuff. This one, I had some optimizations that I could make for my moves, but ultimately I was very pleased with how I played this set. So based on what I understand about this team, is it's most basically just going down the line, Focus Sash, or like Walk on Berry or something, but most likely Focus Sash on this specific team. could be a couple of different moves, items. This one's a little bit tougher to know. Safety goggles, probably AV or Miracle Seed, and then Life Orb. Most of these Kyogre ones are running Life Orb Aleki because it's a better Dynamax one than Focus Sash Aleki. So remember, I said my game plan was um, to go with the with Amoonguss and Palkia, or actually, so I led. Why did I lead Incineroar here? I don't know why I led Incineroar here. It ended up working out for me, obviously, but I ended up leading Incineroar, and I don't remember why. Oh, I do remember why. I had just played against an opponent in the last round before this one, where this player was in the chat watching the game, and that opponent led Tornadization against me, and it was a really tricky matchup. It was basically the exact same six, and these players were interacting with each other like they were friends. So I thought maybe his opponent or this player would do the same thing that his friend did. So that was why I made this play. But I'm going to make a defensive play turn one because I don't really want to play this fake out 50-50. I'm going to switch Palkia into Amoonguss and then go for a parting shot just to see what they do. Okay, so they double protect here, which is very, very good for me. I got Amoonguss in for free. And now this Zacian slot is pinned because whatever is there is going to get put to sleep. I'm assuming that at least Kyogre is in the back, but it could be like they could also if they unless they have Incineroar with safety goggles in the back, this slot right here is pinned to going to sleep. There's no double up that they can do that kills Amoonguss because Zacian's neutral. Um, so they switch to Kyogre. They go for the. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. This was a really good play by me. So I do remember this play actually. Um, the other option that they could do is do exactly what they just did, where they sub to avoid the Spore. And so I actually double that slot with Flare Blitz and Spore. So Flare Blitz breaks the sub, Spore comes out. So now this is where I could have done something a little bit more optimal. I know in my heart that Kyogre is going to protect because it doesn't want to get put to sleep and it doesn't want to switch out. He's trying this player's trying to burn a sleep turn on the Zacian. So what they're trying to do is they're going to protect with Kyogre, burn the sleep turn, and then the next turn hopefully wake up. I should have just hard switched Incineroar to Palkia here. I did not. I went for the parting shot, which in hindsight I think is incorrect. It pays off for me, but I think it's a risk that I don't need to take. So they protect Kyogre just like I said. Burn a turn of sleep. I parting shot the Zacian. Go to Palkia. And then Spore. The Spore of the Kyogre slot is still a mid-ground play. I'm still fine making that play. There's nothing else I can really do. But this puts me in a fantastic position because now I can Dynamax and I can go after the Zacian. I think that's what I do actually. Well, hang on. Yeah, so I go after the Zacian here because I'm predicting that they're gonna play around Spore by switching in the Rillaboom. They could have switched in Rillaboom for Zacian here, which would have been a little trickier, but by going for this play, I'm gonna Max Quake the Zacian, and I'm still gonna Spore. Just keeps him honest. But this actually ends up KOing, which I did not expect. So maybe they were jolly max speed. But I do go for Spore. It fails because it's grass type, understandable. So now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to Spore the Kyogre, but I'm going to attack the Rillaboom. Get the knockout on the Rillaboom. So that tells me it's not AV, most likely at least, because it died. Oh, I went for Pollen Puff. That play is interesting too, I guess. But either way, like Spore probably would have been more optimal, but Pollen Puff like covers them doing some weird switch stuff. I don't know, but now here I can't go for Spore anymore because I know that they're going to max Aleki, right? They're going to max Aleki instead of Electric Drain. So this is where the telepathy burns me because they electric my Palkia, and then I try to Pollen Puff myself and it fails. I Quake the Kyogre, and then so here comes the Lightning. Does a good chunk, 30%. This is where being and actually in hindsight I should have Quaked the Aleki I thought the Aleki was going to protect for the last turn of my Dynamax, and I wanted to guarantee that I got the special defense boost. So that's why I did this. They go for Water Spout, no real damage here, but Pollen Puff fails because I'm telepathy. So this was the beginning of a sequence of some bad events for your boy here. Because Lightning picks up the KO here. I don't know if that's a roll or not. I should check that quick. Let's just see. Let's see. My Palkia has 28 and 4, but it's also got +2. And then we've got Regeliki. Life Orb. Was it maxed? It was. Dynamax in Electric Terrain. So, yeah, it looks like it wasn't even a roll. It did 53.8. Yeah, if it comes off of Thunderbolt, it's guaranteed. So, yeah, and that's assuming also that it wasn't modest. It could have been modest. So, in hindsight, like Rage Powder here would have been fine too. I thought about Rage Powdering, but actually Rage Powder probably would have been better in hindsight. That was another mistake that I made. I was a little flustered by, as you can see from the chatting of the people, including myself, that I had telepathy, so I definitely made a mistake there. That was a bad play. Um, but they get the freeze, which is even worse for me. But now I'm gonna just protect Zacian for the last turn of. Um, I'm gonna protect for the last turn of Dynamax. They're gonna Ice Beam me again. I wake up, or I thaw out, and then I Pollen Puff. So now from here, there's a couple of things that I'm thinking about. My Zacian's going to target the Kyogre because um, I I have Incineroar in the back, and Electric Train's almost gone. And Incineroar should be able to beat Aleki in a 1v1 outside of terrain. So I'm gonna Rage Powder to avoid, just in case they go for Thunderbolt or something, or like Scald. I don't want Zacian to take more damage than he has to. So I go for Rage Powder. Electro Web comes out. Good damage still. Um, Ice Beam comes out. I survive. Play Rough connects, gets the KO. So now in this position, I should have double protected because Zacian could have gone down to this. It might have been a roll. I survived with 3%. So double protecting to get through terrain and then making this play is 100% better. 100%. So Zacian survives. I end up getting the win. But like I said, at this stage, Incineroar wins, right? So so Incineroar should win through this end game, so it didn't really matter. But some of my middle ground plays there, where I pollen puffed my own telepathy, where I wasn't really making optimal moves, like the last turn of. Let's go back a couple turns. This turn right here should have been a Rage Powder turn. Palkia died for no reason there. I could have got an Earth Power off, which might have actually got the KO. I don't remember if I thought maybe I'd survive it or not, but Amoonguss is doing nothing better right now, and I don't want anything else to take any more damage, so I should have just Rage Powdered. That was just better. Um, so that was something in hindsight. I'm really happy with the way that I targeted here, just in case they did max guard. Um, this turn before I get the KO on Rillaboom. Overall, I'm pleased with my play in this set. Like the doubling of this Zacian slot, I'm very happy with myself for. Um, and I'm proud that I saw that line in that moment. But I do think, as we've talked about, whoops, we've seen some plays where I could have been more optimal, right? Also, the freeze was just like icing on the cake for me. So, but yeah, that's kind of the importance of that's kind of how you should ladder, right? There's a lot of talk right now in the VGC community about like ladder being bad because it's not indicative of the results that you get for playing an event or whatever. And if you actually like look at your ladder games and you think through them like this, I think it's actually really beneficial because it makes you a better player. You can identify these lines in the future, right? Like I thought I played really well, and now looking back at this, it's like, there's a couple of things I could have done differently that would have been a lot better, right? So like looking at your games and thinking through them, and the people always talk about going for a read or predicting your opponent. Ideally, like you should have scripted plays like this, where like going for the read on the Zacian with the Flare Blitz to break the sub was um was like that was a read or a prediction, or it covered the option. But but also like some of these early turns that I had, like what going back to the very first turn of the game when I switch Palkia out into a Moongus. It's this turn. I switch Palkia out into a Moongus and I go for fake out. Now I'm in the driver's seat, man. Like this is my game now, and I'm really proud that I was able to play myself into that position, right? So they don't want to get slept. I could have slept the Rillaboom there too. Like I had options here. So this play is good. And now reading this, going for the parting shot, a little bit greedy, but still good. I get Palkia back into position where I want it. I go for the Spore. They switch out. I get the KO. So like my targeting this game, I was very pleased with myself because switch is happening. I'll still just kill the Zacian. It's at -1 attack, so I know I take a play rough. Next turn, Kyogre's going to protect. I get the knockout. Amoonguss covers it. So like it's good to, even though this was a win and this was a good win for me, it's still like there were so many different things that I could have done better. So that's what's important about playing on ladder is analyzing your games and thinking through what did I do well, what could I have done better, things like that. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it informative and educational. As always, here's the team one final time. I'll just tap through the members quick so you can see. If you want to grab this team, feel free. Let me know what you think about it in the comments if you do play with it, and happy grinding in Series 12.